I've gained more than a third of my body weight here. The diet is all carbs, no protein. I don't have any antibiotic cream, and I don't have a Band-Aid. Borrowing sanitary pads. She said, "You're going to buy me commissary. You don't snitch, you don't tell on anyone, because you'll be sorry you did."
Jury selection continues this morning in Mama Donna Adelson's murder trial. So we're asking, what is the best way to dress Donna in court in order to connect with those prospective jurors? Plus, is killer Kohberger a courtie? New details into his obsession with watching court TV, in particular, the Murdaugh trial. So did he learn anything from the disgraced South Carolina lawyer? And the two sides to Sarah Grace, the 17-year-old standing trial for the murder of her parents. We're analyzing her supporters and her critics. Also this hour, the serial killer dad or the abusive husband. Who was it that really killed Melissa Wolfenbarger? We're breaking down the dysfunctional family in this 25-year-old cold case. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. We're ready to get you started with a great show to get ready for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. So we're going to kick it off, as we always do, by having you grab a cup of coffee or tea or hot water with lemon, whatever you like in the morning. It's time for my opening statement. Pants on fire. The San Bernardino Sheriff's Department seems to have detected a fire when interviewing the mother of missing baby Emmanuel Harrow. The Sheriff's Department indicating that after confronting Rebecca Harrow with all the inconsistencies in her story, she stopped answering questions. Imagine that. What's more, both Rebecca and her husband, Jake Harrow, the baby's father, who served time for felony child cruelty, by the way, have both lawyered up. Now, why on earth would these parents of missing Emmanuel need lawyers if they're the victims here? If they had their child taken from them? They're begging the public for help. They're saying that Rebecca was about to change little Emmanuel's diaper in the back seat of her car. She was in a store parking lot, apparently, she says, on Thursday when this happened. And her story is that somebody came up behind her, said, "Hola," and then knocked her out cold. And then she said when she woke up, her baby was gone. Her story stinks to high heaven, and so does her husband's criminal past. What are the odds that a guy who seriously hurt his own baby a couple years ago might be so unlucky as to have another one of his babies kidnapped? What are the chances of that? It's incredible. And why would anybody want to kidnap baby Emmanuel? Where is he this morning? You can't tell me those parents don't know. The convicted child abuser and the mom that investigators say can't keep her story straight. I pray to God that baby Emmanuel will be found safe. And I pray that whoever kidnapped him or whoever did worse to him will be brought to justice. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
So you were aware of several of the details of Carl Patton's murders?
Yes.
And for one of those murders, did he try to stage the crime scene to look like an accident?
Yes.
That they knew too much?
Yes.
In Georgia, we've got the killer's daughter murder trial for Christopher Wolfenbarger. That resumes today. Court's going to get underway, and that one at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Also happening in Georgia, we've got a brand new trial that we're tracking for you. We're calling this one the Speeding Trooper Homicide Trial. Defendant A.J. Scott standing trial for a second time on charges that he killed two teenagers while he was a state trooper. Opening statements begin at 9 a.m. Eastern. And in Tennessee, we've got the Young Dolph murder trial continuing this morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Defendant Hernandez Govan is accused of orchestrating the killing of rapper Young Dolph. Now, we're live streaming this for you. It is on our YouTube channel if you want to watch the case in its entirety. Right now, though, we've got to turn to our top story we have for you. It is day 2 of jury selection in the murder trial for Mama Donna Adelson. The court is hoping to have a jury seated by by Thursday, and then they hope to have opening statements right after the lunch break. Adelson is accused of orchestrating the murder-for-hire plot to kill her daughter's ex-husband, Florida State University law professor Dan Markel. Now, this happened back in 2014.
Mrs. Adelson? How you doing? I just want to give you this.
Can I ask you, is someone blackmailing you? No, it's always a possibility.
I said to Harvey, I swear to God, our family was cursed.
When did they issue a warrant?
One moment, Miss Adelson. Please keep your comments to yourself.
Now, prospective jurors acknowledged that they heard about Dan Markel's murder. 100 of them were questioned. 64 of them were asked to return today. And apparently, Mama Donna looked into the prospective jurors' faces. They were walking past her, made good eye contact, according to our team in the courtroom. Now, as we're waiting for that jury to be picked, we're wondering, how should the team dress Donna for court? What would be the best way to present her for this trial? Let's talk about it. Who better to ask than jury consultant and human behavior expert Susan Constantine and Florida criminal defense attorney and civil rights attorney Casey Early. Good morning to you, ladies. All right, so Susan, let's start with the attire. How might you dress Mama Donna?
Well, I actually dressed today in the color she should dress in, which is more pastel colors. As you know, Julie, I'm a big advocate of not bringing attention to yourself, wearing softer colors like soft blue, soft pink, soft peach, maybe ivory colors. Stay away from that deep purple that she was wearing. You don't want to wear any sort of bright colors. This is what we call enclothed cognition. People look at you and they judge you based on your appearance. Also, it affects your own personal cognition. The way she was dressed in court there in that purple is probably one of the worst things that she could do. It's not right, too bright. The low cut neck, I've got on here more of a collar that's softer. I would put her in soft, flowier fabrics, something that has some crepiness to it with a blazer or a sweater over the top of it. I want her to look her age. I think the hair down is great. She needs a little bit of soft makeup because the whole point is we want to create softness with her, not this hard, high contrast appearance that she is right now seen in court.
Susan, this is really helpful. I want to lean into something you said because we've been having discussions at our newsroom about how Mama Donna is a grandma. And would you want the jury to have kind of a grandma vibe? Would you purposely kind of make her maybe have some things? I don't know. Somebody suggested, for instance, having the chain to the eyeglasses around her neck so that, you know, it's easy access for the glasses, or maybe a cardigan sweater or something.
Yes, you can do that. That's what I was talking about, being age appropriate, because the jury that I would have pre-selected for her is age appropriate. I want to have jurors that are on my panel that are her peers. So you want to appeal to that peer group, okay? So yes, we want her to look grandmothery, but we don't want her to look frumpy. So I still want her to look polished, but not frumpy to where she looks like she's unkept. So if she wanted to wear the little chains, great. Don't overplay it. I always say, make small tweaks, makes a big change. Don't overdo it.
This is awesome advice, Susan. Thank you. So dovetailing off of what you just shared with us, let's say we've got her looking soft, like Susan said, the polished grandma look, we'll call it, what Susan's given us. Casey, tell me about her mannerisms at the table. As her attorney, how would you want her behaving? We got that report yesterday that she was making good eye contact with everybody that was coming past her. What advice might you lend her at the table, please?
Well, she's certainly doing better because we know that previously she had these courtroom outbursts, whether it was to the allegations or to the information when it was read. So the main thing you want to focus on is body language, because if you turn any of those jurors off, if they feel the least disrespected because you're, quote, disrespecting the court, in this instance the judge, then they're going to believe everything that the state says. So definitely she wants to work on her mannerism. Also, I know she was making eye contact, but you don't want to scare the jury or stare at them too much because they're hearing these allegations. They haven't heard the evidence yet. So whatever they've made up in their mind, you don't want to stare at them to the point where they feel uncomfortable. And I agree with my colleague, lean into the grandmother role. I think she's 75 years old. So it's clear that she is a grandmother. So give that grandmother look. She has the hair. It is gray. She has that mannerism. Stick with that, soft and gentle, because you want to place in the jury's mind, she's so fragile. She's so old. There's no way she could have come up to this, made up this plan, this conspiracy. So if you go with that role, but be careful. Because like my colleague stated, if it's too overdone, if it's too grandma, you have the pearls, every box is checked, is going to come off as false and fake. And that is what you do not want, is to turn the jury off.
Yeah, great points, Casey. Thank you. Yeah, we got to be real with the polished grandma look. I like it. Yeah, not overplayed. And we know Donna's got a lot of money, so there could be very fancy clothes on her, but I think the understated look's going to go well. I want to show you both a video from some years ago because some of my colleagues who hadn't seen the trial, were seeing this going, that's Donna. Look on the right. This is that video. They called it the bump video, where law enforcement went undercover to try to prompt her to do some talking, kind of scare her a little bit, saying about the gangbangers wanting payment and someone needing more money in the prison. And so this was done deliberately with an undercover officer, and they got that video. And I hearken back to this and I look at her, how great she looks. So this is some years ago, I think maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So not too long ago. What a difference. Wow. Susan Constantine, you see this. Can she not go back to that look now?
She could, but she's wearing that lime green color. In Florida, a lot of women wear bright colors. They wear the bright color pinks and the lime greens and, the hotter colors, the brighter colors. But then she's also she's sleeveless. I like the overall appearance, but that's not really a court look. She looks like she's got very low confidence, her hands down to her side. She looks very frail, if you ask me. Yes, I want her in low confidence, because anything in high contrast or appearing more powerful is really going to be detrimental. So, when I look at this photograph, I see this as a daytime look. This is not really appropriate for court, but the hair pulled back is not bad.
Right, yeah, and I should have been more specific, Susan. I'm sorry. I was kind of thinking like the blonde hair, like just how she looks so youthful, has a kind of a glow to her. Maybe it's the sunshine, I don't know. But these videos in court, she looks remarkably different. She looks very fit in that video, like maybe she's been on the tennis court at her country club or whatever. I don't think that's happening now. She's complaining about too many carbs in the jail. And you're right, sleeveless in court, no go. The judges will say that is disrespectful. Let's look at her testifying in an earlier hearing. Casey, I'm going to come to you on the other side of this. Let's watch some of Mama Donna on the stand.
You don't, the word is snitch. You don't snitch. You don't tell on anyone because you'll be sorry you did. And I've seen that. And so, I didn't even tell you for a while. I wasn't going to tell anybody. I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want. She's a big woman, and I was afraid of her.
Okay. Approximately. Oh, Casey, we saw her testify. How do you think she's going to fare if she gets up there this time around?
That emotion is definitely going to connect with the jury. Oftentimes, we say that emotion, especially in the jury instruction, is not to be considered. Consider the facts and the evidence, because if everyone moves on emotion, then whoever's crying, that would be the verdict. However, if she utilizes the same emotion when she's testifying that she had no involvement, she had no idea what was going on, then that can be a factor for the jury to consider during deliberations. And I want to make this point going back to her dress. I mean, it's obvious that she gained weight and she was talking about a carbs diet. When I want to take the attention off of my client, I'm the one that wears the bright colors. I'm the one that will wear that stark red lipstick, because sometimes we can't change the tattoos that's on our client's face, or we can't change their demeanor or how they look. So if I want to kind of divert that attention away from my client, because it's not the attention that I want, I put it on myself. So these are some of the tricks and strategies of zealous advocacy.
Love that. Casey, I love that so much. You're staying with us for another segment. Susan Constantine, we've got to let you go. Thank you so much for the great tips for Donna. I don't know if Mama Donna watches Court TV, but she should take some tips from this segment. They've been great. Appreciate you so much. When we come back, we're going to talk about someone who we know definitely watches Court TV. Killer Bryan Kohberger. And you know what he was especially fascinated with? The Alec Murdaugh trial. That's right. So we're asking, did he pick up anything from the convicted killer? Plus,
if the defendant can kill her own parents in such a violent manner, I fear for my own safety and the safety of my family and friends.
and we're talking about the two sides to the TikTok teen murder suspect, Sarah Grace Patrick, in court and denied bond. We'll discuss when opening statements rolls on.
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Terrible.
Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot. Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind murder trial. Live coverage begins this week, only on Court TV.
He's advising that his wife and child was shot.
Okay, and sir, give me the address again.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
I didn't shoot my wife or my son anytime, ever.
It was just so bad. They did it so bad.
What a tangled web we weave. Once I told the lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
Many trial watchers around the world were glued to their screens during the murder trial of Alec Murdaugh. And we're learning, so was another now infamous killer, Bryan Kohberger. Idaho State Police releasing nearly 600 pages of documents from their investigation. And in an interview with an inmate who was housed with Kohberger, we learned that Kohberger liked watching Court TV case coverage unless it mentioned his friends or his family, and then he would change the channel. And eventually, he stopped watching coverage of his case completely. The documents go on to say that Kohberger specifically enjoys watching Court TV and liked watching the Murdaugh trial. How about those two, Alec Murdaugh and Bryan Kohberger? What might Kohberger have learned from Murdaugh and watching that trial? And are there any similarities in their personalities? I'm so happy to bring in our expert panel on this now. Let's welcome them all. Criminology expert, author, and professor, Dr. Debbie Goodman. Clinical psychologist, Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, Dr. Z. And criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor, Franz Borghardt. Wow, what a power panel this is. Good morning to you all. All right, so tell me your initial reactions when you heard this about Kohberger. I don't even want to call him a courtie because we're not claiming him as a courtie, but enjoying Court TV and especially the Murdaugh trial. Dr. Debbie, would you start us off, please?
Certainly, and good morning. You know, clearly, Julie, Court TV, the best of the best coverage, the best anchors, reporters, journalists, guests. So it wouldn't surprise me that he would watch because it would please him. You know, again, we're talking about a psychopath, hedonistic, narcissistic, grandiose. So I think even if coverage may have been, in his mind, if anybody said anything derogatory about him, negative, he still would have found it pleasing. Why? Because for the psychopath, they want to be some way, somehow in a spotlight. Far better for them to be talked about than to be regarded as invisible or ignored.
Well, this is really helpful, Dr. Debbie. Thank you. Let's keep digging. Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, to you next, please. Your reaction when you heard this.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. I think one of the other aspects of it, too, is that watching this, you know, one of the things that people with this structure of personality to say is that they like to have control over the narrative. And then by watching everything that's going on, not only do they get this sense of control over the narrative that's being told about them, but they also learn elements to incorporate into their own narrative to make their ego even bigger, or to make themselves feel that they are pulling the wool over other people's eyes. So they really use it to their advantage.
This is so helpful and enlightening. Dr. Jamie, thank you. Franz Borghardt, last but not least, your reaction to this bit of news.
Totally not shocking that he's a fan of not only myself, but of you and the other guests on Court TV. Look, this doesn't surprise me. I will remind you and the viewers of the traffic stop and his exchange with the law enforcement officer, where it almost kind of that creepy, like, trying to figure out things, and I'm echoing everything that's been said already. This is manipulative, right? This is I want to see what's being said. I want to control it. Now, what's interesting to me is he was never really vocal in the courtroom, which makes him very distinctly different than Alex Murdaugh. So I cannot wait to talk about that, Julie, because that would be very interesting to me to figure out why he never tried to manipulate and have a voice in the court beyond what he did.
Yeah, I love it, Franz. I'm so glad you asked. Let's do it. Let's talk about that. Dr. Jamie, would you assess these personalities, please? I know we have not had you personally evaluate either of them. We would love if you would be able to, and then report back to us. But your best educated analysis from afar, Murdaugh and Kohberger, what similarities and differences do you see?
Yeah, I know. I think that's a really interesting observation because that's exactly what happens. I think with Kohberger, I think that he almost felt this sense of entitlement that he didn't need to speak, right? That he was so much smarter than everybody else because he sat there with this look on his face of, almost like a smug smirk, right? And so I think that he portrayed himself as somebody who was trying to come off as so much more intelligent than everybody else that it didn't require him to have to say anything. He liked that everybody around him was doing the work for him. And we see this a lot with narcissists and sociopaths, where they're kind of in the middle and everybody else is dancing around them, causing such chaos while they quietly sit back and watch this go on. And that gave him that fuel, that gave him that supply that he desperately wanted.
Dr. Jamie, thank you for that. Boy, this is great. Dr. Debbie, let me go to you next. Couple more facts for you. Apparently, one of Kohberger's cellmates let police know his favorite film, you guessed it, American Psycho. Yeah, how about that? He liked American Psycho, his favorite movie. Also baseball fan. Any New York Yankees fans out there, he's a fan too. His classmates say he would talk incessantly in class, argue. Whenever discussions of the Moscow murders were brought up in class, he wouldn't participate, though. They noticed that. And he did say in class that he was supportive of the death penalty and believed that victims' families should have a say in whether it's exercised. Ooh. Dr. Debbie, your thoughts hearing these other additional facts about him?
Right. So I would now, hearing that, Julie, say that this individual vacillated between and among a fact, fiction, and also facade. So his interest to me about Alex Murdaugh, that's all fact-based. He would know that this is an individual who was formerly an attorney, who now allegedly killed, but we know no more allegedly did in fact kill wife Maddie's son Paul, and would have studied carefully his actions and interactions. So that's the fact-based pattern. Now, it shouldn't surprise us that his favorite fictional movie, which truly is fiction-based, American Psycho, is not based upon any real-life true story of any serial killer. But let's think about what that premise of the story is about: seemingly a banker, well-credentialed by day, well-respected and regarded, hence perhaps Alex Murdaugh, but by night is the killer. So here we are between fact and fiction, and then ultimately the facade. This individual, Bryan Kohberger, must have put the facade on for years, seemingly acting as if he were the training assistant, the graduate assistant, pretending to be teacher, professor, and all along having these sinister, sickening thoughts, which he acted upon.
The facade. Yes, Dr. Debbie, thank you for that. That is the perfect point to end the segment on, because really, I think so many people, myself included, have felt like this. When I look at both of these guys, that's what it is. They look so normal. You think, oh, could these guys be killers? And these are bad, bad criminals, these two guys, and they were living among us, acting normally. One was a PhD student. The other one is an attorney. He was a prosecutor at one point. Holy smokes. You hit the nail right on the head. What a great discussion with you all. Super power panel this Wednesday morning. We're going to keep it going. Dr. Debbie, we have to let you get off to class. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Franz and Dr. Jamie are coming with us. Do the same at home. Here's what's next.
Sarah has a huge heart. She is loving, protective, and deeply rooted in her faith. Hurting someone simply isn't in her nature or character.
Sarah Grace Patrick. Her supporters showed up in full force for her bond hearing. We're going to break down to what seem to be the two sides of this 17-year-old accused killer. And who really killed Melissa Wolfenbarger? Was it her serial killer dad? Was it the murder accomplice mom? Or was it her abusive husband? We'll talk about that and what's tipping the scales.
I find the state has met their burden today by a preponderance of the evidence. And Miss Patrick, because of that, I'm bound by the law, and I do not believe that you would be a proper candidate for bond.
Teen murder suspect Sarah Grace Patrick denied bond. And this morning, our spotlight is on what we heard before the judge made his decision. Now, the court was filled with her supporters and her critics. And one by one, they testified either for or against the idea of bond. But frankly, you would never know they were talking about the same person.
She would never do anything to harm them. She wants only to protect them.
And what makes this even more heartbreaking is that her sister loved the defendant. She looked up to her. And for reasons I will never understand, the defendant caused such imaginable pain.
Now, as Patrick appeared to be wiping away tears in the courtroom, it's important to remember that this is the same girl who eulogized her parents after police say she committed the murders. This video you're about to see here was posted by Kristen Dowda on Facebook. Take a look.
I just wanted to say goodbye to my mama and Jamie since we never got the chance to. I was so used to you guys always being here to the point that I never once thought to imagine y'all not being here. I didn't have a single clue how much I needed y'all until now. Although there's nothing we can do to bring them back, we still have control over how we treat people with us today. I love you guys, and so do I. And so do they. I'm sorry.
Wow. Now, important to know, we're still waiting for the unsealing of the probable cause affidavit to get the details of this. But police are saying there are certain things that are public, no signs of forced entry. She was in the house at the time she placed the 911 call, and they say that she is their only suspect, okay? So that being said, we've got this cloud of suspicion police say is around this young lady, and she's also going on TikTok and reaching out to people, asking them for help in solving her parents' murders. And police say that was part of this, that she was trying to kind of socially engineer the court of public opinion. So who do you believe? Is she the sweet, innocent young lady who's prayerful, as those supporters said? Or is this a dangerous little kid? She's tried as an adult. Let's talk about it. Let's bring in licensed clinical psychologist Dr. Jamie Zuckerman and criminal defense attorney and civil rights attorney Kesia Early. Okay, ladies, let's start with the two sides to the personality. Dr. Jamie, when we were all watching this, it was like one witness would say one thing, another witness would say a completely different thing about this kid. How does that possibly work out?
Yeah, so we see this often, right? Because we have many times seen people where the one facade is, a complete opposite of what is being shown, let's say, on TV or in the news. So, sometimes people put on this very distinct persona that makes people view them in a light of very caring, very supportive, very loving within the community, very friendly, even philanthropic, and really kind of strong members in their community, and then may have this other persona where they are manipulative, where they are vindictive, where they lack empathy. And there's this whole other version of them that they don't allow others to see unless something happens where both sides come out, which is maybe what we're seeing here.
Dr. Jamie, fascinating what you're telling us. I have a clip I want to show you both. And Casey, I want to come to you on the other side of this. This is Sarah Grace Patrick on TikTok. So this is after her parents, Jamie and Kristen Brock, had been murdered. And here's a little sampling of what she was doing.
He doesn't know it, but a year from now, our family will be torn apart. I will be far away and won't see or talk to him for 5 years. I'm feeling so
And what's more, Casey, is that some TikTokers who like to talk about true crime, kind of the true crime side of TikTok, those people apparently reached out, came forward to police and were saying, whoa, this kid reached out to me privately, private messaging me saying, oh, I need some help in solving this crime, which police and prosecutors are saying was part of her manipulation in trying to cover this up after the fact. What are your thoughts on her, Casey?
So many, Julie. I always say after trying 100 trials, things are not what they always seem to be. Sometimes the facts, the allegations, the probable cause affidavit can seem so egregious that your client really does look guilty. And only you know, because you have the opportunity to not only speak to your client, but do your own investigation. And as the trial goes on, it becomes clear to the jury that, wait a minute, maybe this is not what actually occurred. So that's one. But when I look at the TikTok, instantly, when I saw that last clip where she's crying and it appears to be her mascara or her eyeliner, it kind of looked fake. Immediately I said, it looks like eye drops. Like I just didn't buy it. But at the same time, we have to think about the generational gap. How the younger teenagers, this is their life, right? They never had a life without cell phones and social media. So maybe the way they grieve, maybe the way they reach out is different. But I always tell my client, I don't care what you tell me, I follow the evidence. It's my job to zealously advocate for you, but the evidence will eventually come forward. So it's kind of early in the stage, but as of right now, it's just not connecting with me.
Mm-hmm. Right, Casey, I'm with you. And I really appreciate what you said about you can only do so much to zealously advocate for your client, and facts are what they are. Dr. Jamie, I'm wondering, as you said before, if both things can be true here, if we could have this child who is very upset and crying, she's crying in the courtroom and acting prayerful and God-fearing around a certain faction of people, but yet can still also be this very dangerous child behind closed doors and in certain moments.
I think you have to ask yourself if one is performative or not, and I agree with seeing somebody on TikTok and this is how they're presenting their life and the tears. I do think this is a reflection of where they're at in their generation. I agree with that. But at the same time, as you had said, you do have to follow the facts. And regardless if somebody is presenting one way or another way, one of those are true, right? I mean, we can act both, but only one of them is actually true. And so I think as this goes on, you'll see that come out. I agree. I think the facts will come out. But I do think that it makes it a little bit confusing because, yes, this is how that generation tends to grieve. They grieve openly. They grieve on social media. But we also want to be very careful in terms of assuming it's just that and proper grieving versus is there a motive behind that? Is it performative? And again, that'll be something that comes out.
Really illuminating, Dr. Jamie. That's something I feel like we can really take with us, how you said one side is truly her, the other side is a performance. And I think we can apply that probably to a lot of the different cases we see, the various criminals, and how, the family will go, oh, my child couldn't have done this. And then look at the facts, oh no, your child did do this. And you go through everything, and it's, one side to, like you said, to one faction of people, another side to another. But no bond for her for now, and we know that the state was presenting to the grand jury to indict her, so we'll see if that true bill was issued and if the case moves on forward. Trial could happen in January. Boy, I could talk to you ladies all day, but you both have jobs to do. You have to get on with your days. Casey Early, Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, thank you both for your time and your expertise. So we'll hope to have you back very soon. And still ahead here on Opening Statements, here's what we've got.
Just generally speaking, were you involved with some of Mr. Patton's murders?
I helped him dispose of the bodies.
Oh, my. So we've got a really dysfunctional family at the center of that 25-year-old cold case in Georgia. We've got a serial killer dad, a mom who helped him after the fact, and an abusive husband married to the victim. So who killed Melissa? That's next.
This week.
Did Donna Adelson orchestrate the murder of her former son-in-law? We'll get you ready for the start of the matriarch mastermind murder trial.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Brian Walsh, accused of murdering his wife, Anna.
She wrote a children's book about her husband's death. Now she's accused of killing him.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Now, for what's tipping the scales, the killer's daughter murder trial resumes this morning. Christopher Wolfenbarger, accused of murdering his wife, Melissa, back in 1999. Her remains, including her severed head, were found in trash bags. They weren't positively identified until 2003, and Wolfenbarger wasn't arrested until last year. Now, Melissa, the victim, is also the daughter of convicted serial killer Carl Patton, infamously known as the Flint River Killer. Questions are lingering this morning, namely, who killed Melissa? Authorities say it was her husband, but it's not every day that the victim's dad is a serial killer. And then you have Melissa's mom, who testified about murders that she was involved with. Take a listen.
Now, you've mentioned that your husband, Carl Patton, eventually confessed to murdering 5 people. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you involved with some of Mr. Patton's murders?
I helped him dispose of the bodies.
Okay. So you were involved?
Yes.
Okay. And did you, for some of the murders, you were not involved, is that correct?
That's correct.
But you overheard Carl making plans for them?
Yes.
Lovely family, right? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about who really killed Melissa Wolfenbarger. Let's bring in our legal eagle, Franz Borghardt, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. Okay, Franz, your thoughts on this. The family dysfunction. It's what many of our trial watchers are talking about. It's sad. There's a lot of dysfunction to this family, a lot going on, as you know. Who does that help more? Does it help the defense more or the state more, in your view?
Well, I mean, it depends on what kind of worldview you want to have, Julie. If the dysfunction is so rampant that we're just casually admitting that we got rid of bodies, we're just casually admitting that, hey, he confessed to 5 murders, then it helps the defense, right? This is a messed up family. Anything's possible. Maybe the serial killer, like a game of Clue, maybe the serial killer was the one who killed her. However, the flip side of this is when when you go down the rabbit hole a little bit, who was he killing as a serial killer? What was the make and model of his victims? If he confessed to 5 killings, why wouldn't he have confessed to killing his own daughter, or his granddaughter? I don't know that this chaos, this family dynamic is necessarily going to get them to the finish line, Julie, but any chaos in a case helps the defense.
Right, Franz. Tell me, where do you see the defense heading? Do you think that they're in a good place right now? Do you think they ought to encourage their client to get up there? Do you think it'd be way too risky if he gets up there and testifies?
I think him testifying is a huge mistake. I think that they've got enough meat on the bone to argue for reasonable doubt. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to work, Julie. I'm just saying in a lot of cases, sometimes you have nothing to argue. They've got something to argue, and it doesn't require him getting on the stand. And then if he gets on the stand, what's he going to contribute? Like, unless he testify and changes something, I don't think I think it's his own. It's his own ship to sink at this point. Now, that said, where are they? They've got a good straight-faced argument that, hey, look, it was this other killer and the police got it wrong. And it's just enough of a circumstantial evidence case where there's enough to just argue that. And look, not saying it's going to work, but it's not a bad closing argument.
No, it's not. It's not, Franz. And when I look at this, I'm sure you agree. It's like the prosecutor in me. I see this as a domestic violence case. I see it right through all the noise. That's just what I see. However, I could see how someone on that jury may go, you know what? Dad's not here to tell us if he did this. If Dad were alive, maybe that would even change the game, right? It might actually be more helpful for the state. They may need to call him. But the fact that he's dead, my gosh, Franz, what a gift, right?
It's the perfect person to pin it on. He cannot testify. Not that if he were alive, Julie, he wouldn't testify anyway. He'd plead the fifth or this is awesome. And nobody gets, by the way, by not putting him on the stand because he's deceased, nobody gets penalized for not putting him on the stand. This is, from a defense standpoint, this is not a bad position to be in. It is a straight-faced, reasonable argument that it wasn't my client. It was, in fact, this confessed serial killer. The problem's going to be the devil's always in the details. And again, who was he killing? How did he kill them? Was this consistent? And on top of all that, again, why wouldn't he confess to killing her?
Yeah, no, I know. And why is the wife alive too? It's just, yeah. And we've seen this, Franz. Serial killers often live very normally among their family members. Family often has no idea, right? So it's just, there's nothing pointing to him wanting to harm his daughter. And I think just what's going to maybe be a little tough here is some of the chaos in the family. We have a quick clip. This is Melissa's daughter, Christina, saying she thought Chris's parents were her mom and her dad.
When you were younger, who did you think was your biological mother?
Chris's parents.
When you were younger, did Kathy ever talk to you about Melissa?
No, ma'am.
Did Alan ever talk to you about Melissa?
No, ma'am.
Now, at any point in time, did you ever live with anyone else besides Kathy or Alan?
I didn't go stay with Chris until senior year of high school, but until then, I lived with both of them.
It's just so sad. Franz, last question I want to ask you, please, pertaining to the prosecution, and I just need a quick answer. Do you think they're going to be able to prove this?
I think they're going to get past the finish line and there will be a conviction.
Franz Borghardt, you're the best. Thank you so much for being on the show today. We'll see you soon.